Welcome to the Political Ferret Show, and today it gets kinky. A little bit, at least. So, there was this question, is kink a sexual orientation? So, let's go into that, shall we? In the article, the main thing is that the author pretty much said that 35% of the BDSM practitioners identify as bisexual for some rate, and they put down that the normal rate is in between 2 to 3%, not about the 10% that often goes around. And there was this idea that this has something to do with homosexuality, and others say, oh no, it is a sexual orientation for itself. So naturally, the GTPQ said whatever's came about and said, oh no, you can't say that BDSM is something even close to my sacred homosexuality. Yeah, well. And this is what all this article is about. They also pretty much said, oh yes, we are also a group and blah 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 blah. To understand why this is important and why I talk about that and not just say who the fuck cares, you have to understand this idea of collectivism, especially if we talk about Marxist collectivism. There are always two groups, at least two groups, and one of these groups will dominate the other, something the BDSM folk understands pretty much. So, the communists then say you have to apply force in some way or another against the oppressors, so you can put the oppressors below the oppressed, so that the oppressed can oppress the oppressors, because that's then not oppression. Normally they say something, oh, we want to put them on the same stage, but no, they want to oppress the oppressors to oppress oppression, or something like that. So, I think this is collectivism, and it is not only true for communists, it is true for all the others as well. So to understand the next step, we have to understand what the world looks like, and the world looks like something like this. We are individuals, we all are different to some degree, some of us are similar, but in the end we are all different. So naturally groups can form, and they will form. So you have then in this case red block and green block and blue and blah 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 block, and some people who don't want to belong to these blocks, like me for example. I hate to be categorized and say I'm part of this group. I'm not. I'm an individualist because I can't work with groups because I don't like them. So this is pretty much still voluntarily. You can be part of the group, but it has no effect. In such a system, a group itself has no power. If there is a group of 10 people, it has the power of 10 people. That's important to understand. When the group is empty, the group has no power anymore. You have to understand these groups and collectives, if you want, are not per se bad if they don't have a weight for themselves. If they just have the weight of their people inside of the group, there is no problem. But this is naturally not very good for spinning this whole victim narrative. So you have now all these individuals, and then you come along and say we are all the same. So that's the basic notion of the communists. We are all the same. But if all are the same, there is no group that can oppress the other group, so you have to say, well, now, not exactly, because within this group, in the group where all are the same, there are some people who are not exactly the same, because they are different. And then you have to invent another term for the others who are then also different. And then you can construct some idea of this group oppresses this group, so this is a group that fights the other group. And then you have a problem, because on the edges of this system you will have traitors in your own ranks and allies on the other side. So you have to give them in such a gray area where you say, okay, you belong to our group but you don't fight for us, so therefore you are evil, and the others belong to the other group but they want to fight for us, so they are good. So is kind of confusing. Naturally, on the borders it also gets quite confusing, and then you have somewhere in these edges and in these subgroups different groups within the groups that say that they are oppressed from the other groups and you have to save them, and so on and so on and so on. And this is exactly the situation we have right now in this article, where they say, yeah, but we are also part of this oppressed group because I like to get punched on my butt with a Forbes magazine or something like that. So hey, there is a president right now around who would be then in an oppressed group. Quite interesting. So the fact is, if you spin this to its very end, you have again individualism, because if the sum of your groups is the sum of the individuals, we call this individualism. Everyone for his own. No groups doesn't matter, collectivism doesn't matter, everybody does its own, and there are no ideologies because there are no two people who want exactly the same thing, and there are very, very sharp borders in between them. And that's the funny thing. When you cut into the system and say there is a group within a group within a group that oppresses someone who is in this group, and you do this again and again and again and again and again, you end up somewhere at a point where you say, okay, the sum of the groups is the sum of the individuals. Or you go even further, and then you can have the situation where, or you enter the point where a guy with a split personality can oppress himself or something crazy like this. But the thing is that the only grouping that really works is we against them. That's the only thing that really works. If you say, that's we and all the others are the thems. But the problem is that there are a lot of thems around, because they are individuals and some of them come together in groups and so on, but there will always be a bigger they than we. And this is something that these guys would need to understand. Kink is not a sexual orientation, it's just a fetish of some individuals. But what it is about is that these guys say, can I get victim status? I want some victim status. Oh please, can I get them? And some people who already have this victim status say, no, we won't share that, because if we share this with you, there is less force. And we can't have that. We have to fight for our right to party or something like this. And if you take something of that away, then in the end we would have to give you something from us, and we don't want to do that. So this is all about one group wants to have something that the other group has, and this group will not give it to them. And this is wonderful, because this is the border discussion, but on sexuality and for the LBSGTX whatevers who don't want to bring these guys who they don't like and don't see they see them as cultural not compatible, if you want. They don't want them in their little group because they are others. It's so crazy and it is so funny. I think a lot of right-wingers right now say that the left will eat itself, and I seriously hope that this thing will not lead to a complete collapse of the left, but to an understanding what they are doing right now, and that what they are doing is absolutely stupid and crazy. This whole oppression Olympics is over because everybody wants to play with that. I mean, the identitarians play exactly the same game, and you don't understand that. And this is so funny and so sad in the same moment. I can't even tell you.